Hello, everyone. Mike Grabham here again today from sunny Seattle, Washington, which is not so sunny today. Hey, and I'm wearing my glasses today. I have to wear glasses when I'm reading things like magazines and newspapers. Can't read them, right? So um, some of you have never probably seen me in glasses, so just FYI, it's the same guy, just wearing glasses today. So thanks for being here. Again, my name is Mike Grabham. I am your startup guide. I help you through the journey of getting your idea started, getting it launched, figuring out if it's any good. Sometimes it's not. And then finding that target customer, right? Finding that person that's actually the segment, customer segment, is actually going to give you real money. So um, that's what I do. So I'm talking about today. I just picked up a magazine. I was at a doctor's office, picked up a magazine, and the Inc. magazine just came out with this. They come out with a big survey you do every year, the Inc. 5000, right? So they have a big survey, and there's a couple things they do that I think is really interesting that I wanted to talk about today, because it kind of tells you the broader scope of how all these companies got started. So give me a thumbs up if you ever read Inc. magazine, and let me know where you're at. Like I said, where you're from. And also, the question of the day is, what is the scariest part of being a founder, CEO, leader? You name the title, but what is the scariest part of you being the top dog? Like, whether you're a CEO, startup founder, or just a leader in your organization. So I'd love to hear that. Love to know what those are and what that is. And so throw them in the comments. So today, again, I want to talk to you about a big survey that comes out every year by Inc. magazine. They survey the top 5,000 and what they call the top 5,000, because what they do is, you have to enter your information to be considered for a fastest growing company, right? So that's how they do these lists. So it doesn't, what is interesting about these lists is not everyone that's fast growing is on this list. There are companies in the US that are growing faster than some of these companies that are just not on this list because they haven't submitted their information. Because again, Inc. doesn't go out and seek out every company. Companies submit information. They have to want to be on the list. Otherwise, they won't get the data. So that's how these lists for Inc. magazine get formed. Is people are bringing the information to them. Now, the Inc. does verify the information, but it isn't like they're going out and seeking all these great companies. The companies are actually coming to them. So just FYI, so there are companies that are not on this Inc. 5000 list that are still doing great and doing great things. But what I think is interesting about this is they talk about a couple things, and what I want to talk about is a lot around investment. So I get emails all the time about people wanting to raise money. I mean, I got one 2 days, this morning, early this morning. It's a company. I'm not going to name the company, but they're like, how long does it take to raise money? What do I do to raise money? Like, if you're asking those questions and you're not ready to raise money, right? So you just got to understand that not all companies are ready to raise money and actually should raise money. So here's a question that the Inc. survey asks. And again, these are 5,000 companies, so it's not a small sample. The N equals 5,000. There's quite a large sample size. So how much money did you use to start your first business? Like, how much money did it take, right? And 45% less than $5,000. So that goes to show you that you don't need all this capital to start your company, right? Think about that. So 5,000 CEOs, responded to this, and 45% of them, right, said they started with less than $5,000. So most of us in our worlds, right, we can cobble together $5,000, maybe not personally, but borrow it from friends, do whatever, credit cards, etc., to get that $5,000 to start the company. So don't think you have to raise money on every single idea that you have. It's not critical. It's not important. It's just getting started. So I thought that was really interesting. And then let's go to the next level. So the next level is another 19% used between $10,000 and $50,000. So it's a little bit more money, but think about it. So 45 and 19, so 64% of all the companies started in this list, all of them use less than $50,000. Less than $50,000. Now, again, $50,000 is not a ton of money. It's not insignificant, but $50,000 could be raised, you think about it, through 10 people with $5,000 each, right? And those could be your friends if you have no money, if you have zero money, right? I remember my very, very first company that the partner and I bought. I actually borrowed $5,000 from my girlfriend at that point in time to help pay the down payment on this company, right? Because I don't remember the exact amount, but I was short $5,000. So I literally went to my girlfriend and said, and I paid her back in like 90 days, right? So once we got the company, up and going, it was, we had cash flow. So again, understand where you need to get the money. It's not like you have huge amounts of money needed. So 64% of the population of founders that are starting and running real companies doing real stuff, less than $50,000. Super interesting. Another thing is like how'd they get the money? Where'd they get the money they started with? So 74% of all these people used personal capital. So savings, cashed in their IRA, cashed in their Roth, do whatever they did, but they came up with the money themselves. So that's 74%. So almost basically 3/4 of the population of the people that are doing this right through their own savings. So again, super important to understand that the most of these people that start companies are doing it with their own money, some way, shape, or form. So again, this goes to show you that you do not have to raise money to start a company. It is not the only thing you can do. So I thought that was it. So another thing I think is interesting from this is, have you ever turned down VC funding, right? And some of you are going to say, well, hardly anyone's turned down VC funding, right? Well, actually, about 40% of the people on this list have turned down funding. Now, remember, understand the list. These are fast-growing companies. These companies are doing well. So it's important to understand the list of where it is. They're not all just startups that have no product yet. These are companies that have had product for at least 3 years. They have revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So they're real companies. So I just think that's really, really interesting to understand how people are raising money and what they're doing, right? So again, if you need money to start your company, first, this is telling you, first look inward, right? Like, where do you have it? Where's your personal savings? Maybe a couple of your friends, like whatever you do to cobble that together, that $25 or $30 or $50,000, right? Whatever that is, you can probably do it. You can probably do it on your own. 74% of the people do, right? The other there's another 22%. So basically 96% of people that start a company, 96% are using their own access. It's either personal savings or credit cards. Think about that. So that's 96% are using personal credit or credit cards. Again, super important just to understand that we can usually find it amongst our own personal self. So that is I thought that was really interesting on how to raise money and what to raise money, et cetera. So because one of the things that I think is really important is how do we get started, right? Because that's what I'm always talking to founders, obviously, that are just getting started. They're just either they've just got an idea or they've had an idea for 6 months or whatever. So here's what is important when you start looking at like, okay, I need capital. So instead of saying I need capital, let's reverse that and say I need customers, right? So I need customers. Like that is capital. Customers are capital. Really simple, right? So that's the case, right? So how do we do that? I got to take these off because it actually kind of bug me when I'm looking things other than just reading small print. So again, I'm here today talking about we're talking about funding today and how to access and how other people access funding. And the question of the day is, let me put the question of the day up. It is, what's the scariest part of being a founder, CEO, or leader? That is the question of the day. So please answer that in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know what's going on out there. Leave any comments in there. Please, leave comments about good, bad, and different. If I can answer anything, put that in there as well. And then also, I'm talking about the Inc. 5000 list that just came out. That's what I was just reading off of this Inc. 5000 list. And I thought was really interesting is how people are raising money. So I want to talk a bit more detail about the fact that when we are in that mode of, okay, I've got an idea, where do I get the capital? First, look for customers. Customers will fund your idea if it's a good idea, right? This has absolutely been done. So it was not my company, but I was intimately involved in this company. It was really helping the founder out actually quite a bit. So he had a product that basically help people do perform their job in a faster way. So basically, in an industry segment, it was help this group of people do their job in a better way. So let me give more detail. So it was an attorney product. It helped attorneys do their job faster, right? So it actually was pretty cool, right? It worked really well. So he didn't have money to kind of build the product, right? So what he did, we figured out, like what he did is he went to law firms, just talked about the product, said, hey, here's the product. What do you think? Do you like it? And you know what? People gave him money, right? So, because what we did is we asked for money up front and said, hey, we're going to build this. It's not built yet. We're going to build this. We want you to be, grandfathered in at a certain price for the next year and give us a down payment on that price. And that's how it happened. That's how we raised money for that startup, right? We literally went to customers before we had a product and asked for a down payment for the product. And after you talk to enough people, they gave you money. So that is a way to fund your startup without actually, having to think you need to go raise money. You don't necessarily need to go raise money. So that's one thing that we did, and it worked. And this is not like unheard of things that happen. It happens all the time. If you have a great product and you know your product segment and who that target market is, go out and talk to those people and basically ask for down payments and grandfather them in for, say, hey, for the next 5 years or 2 years or 1 year, you're going to get this price, and it's discounted versus the retail price, right? So that's one way. Another thing is to be really kind of nailing that raising the money, because this is what really bothers me is, like, you don't have to raise money. Less than, what is the thing? Okay, VCs less than 2% of companies get money through VCs in the list. 2%, right? That's hardly any companies get money from VCs when you're looking at the broad scope of, when you're looking at thousands of companies. Most companies don't get money from VCs. So don't think that that's the only way that you can get money. It's not the only way. There's many, many ways. So please don't focus on that as being the only way. I'll talk a little bit about how to do that, but it's not the only way, and should not. And for most companies, it actually isn't even an option. So what I'm saying is, let's look for different ways. So the first one I just explained was go out and get deposits from companies, from your target customers, are they willing to give you money based on what the idea is. And I'm not saying they're giving you full retail price. Have them give you a deposit or some percentage of the product cost, right? Whatever that product to retail price is going to be. Absolutely works. I've done it. It works great. Another way to do this is, and this takes a little bit more work. Like, let's just say your product is going to cost $50,000 to build, right? To get it kind of really neat. And I'm not saying pay your salaries or anything like that. I'm just saying to build the product, right? So let's just say it costs $50,000. And let's say you have 10. So you're short 40 grand. So what I would do is literally go talk to 20 of your friends, right? And I would put them in a room together, right? And you can do this in a dinner setting, right? And it really works well. So you put them in a room together, and you're describing your idea and say, okay, I've got 10, I need $40,000, and here's what I'm going to do for you if you want to put money in. You can act them like kind of an angel investor, but if they're your friends, they're really betting on you. They're probably not betting on the idea much. They're really just betting on you as an individual because they probably like you, hence they're your friends. So go and ask them for that $40,000 and give them some kind of return, right? Give them something in return. Now, here's why I say this is a little scary, because if things don't work out, and many times they do not, then some friends will not be very happy about that. So you need to be really clear about that when you're borrowing. Basically, what you're doing is you're borrowing money from your friends, right? Which is not normally a great thing. But when you have a great idea, you kind of do anything that makes sense. So when you go to them, make sure they understand that, it could obviously fail. So don't give me any money that you care about. Like, if you can only afford to give me $1,000, give me $1,000, right? So again, don't ask things for you can't kind of deal with the consequences of it going in a bad direction, because remember, most startups fail. So that's another method. Have a dinner party, know an exact amount, say, I need to raise this. And so also very important to put a time frame on that. Say, I need to raise this in the next 2 weeks or a month, right? To give people time to do that and make sure you're very clear, like, don't give me any money that you want back, because it's most likely going to fail. And I'm going to work my ass off so it doesn't, but it most likely will fail. So that happens all the time. You can try to treat them as angel investors. You can just treat them as debt and just repay them with some kind of return on top of that. Some of them will actually want it, maybe not even want it back. They just want equity down the road. So there's lots of things you can do when there's small amounts like that. But I would treat it as debt, because from a securities position, it's better just to treat it as a loan, right? A loan. You can even do a loan to you, right? Which again, it's not something I recommend doing a guarantee for anything, personal guarantees at least, because I can obviously tell you stories about personal guarantees, and I did when I had a company which cost me a personal bankruptcy by doing these personal guarantees. So not a good choice, but it does happen in when I say smaller amounts, the 2s and 4s and $5,000 stuff. So again, if you're just joining me today, I read Inc. magazine. I was in an office, doctor's office, and I read an Inc. magazine. And I love this time of year. They put out this big survey of 5,000 people that, the companies are doing well. They're fast growing companies, the Inc. 5,000. But what I like about it is the survey data. So I was talking about how people fund their companies, and 96% of those people fund them through either personal savings or credit cards. 96%, right? So think about that. Basically, 95 out of 100, 96 out of companies out of 100 fund this on their own, no outside funding. So I'm talking about different ways, alternative ways that we can raise money, right? So one is ask money from customers, go present the product to customers, give them a great deal on, say, for the next year or whatever it is, get some money from them, have a deposit. That's definitely one way that people don't do that you should have your customers pay for it. Second thing is if it's a small amount of money, have basically what I call a dinner party and ask for some money from your friends. But I would highly recommend that you obviously have skin in the game where you have no money and they're providing all the money. I would recommend you having some money in the game, because it's just much better that way. And be careful, because your friends, you don't ask a lot of money from your friends. It's just a bad thing, because someone will be pissed off and you're going to lose friendships. So it has to be small amounts. When I say small amounts, like less than $5,000, like $2,000, $3,000, very small amounts. And so those are two ways. Another way that we can raise money, which I would call alternatively, is credit cards, which I already mentioned. And I think I've done it. I mean, a lot of people have done that, so don't discount that. Using your credit cards. I mean, again, do 22% of these of the 5,000 use credit cards, so it's not unusual, right? So I would highly recommend that. The rates are not good. It's not great for any kind of long term, but if you just need, again, smaller amounts, and I'm saying less than $10,000, it's not a bad way to do it. And another way to do that is, purchasing things you may need on the credit card, right? Versus, paying cash for it, right? So again, some of these things are just obvious, but when people are sending me emails about how I need money to do XYZ, here's some options. Like I'm saying, you don't necessarily need to do that. You need to find ways internally in your surroundings that you can raise money yourself, right? With your own resources. Okay, so last thing I think is a kind of a unique way is, and I've done this one too. There's Prosper, and there's a number of online places where you can basically loan money from the people that are on Prosper, which is an online service that allows you. Cabbage is another one, but that's more based on your revenue. But they actually will loan you money based a little bit on your idea, but some on your ability to pay them back. I've done this several years ago, way back. I did a Prosper loan, and again, it's just a way to raise money. It's again small amounts. We're not talking about large amounts. But it's a way to get things started. And another thing, which I mean, I really don't like, is like GoFundMe. I'm not a big fan of like GoFundMe accounts to start your company. It can be done, kind of when I talk about doing these dinner parties, is the same thing, but they're with people that know you. So GoFundMe is another option as well. If you want to do that, just putting up a GoFundMe account, like, hey, help me fund this great idea. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of that. Kickstarter is obviously the way. I've done Kickstarter and been successful with Kickstarter. That's a different way to do it, but you have to have you've got to definitely do some work there, which super, super great. It's great for testing the market, validating their actually customers that even care about your idea. So that's a great way. When I did mine for the package car, what was great about it is I got validation that people cared about the problem I was solving, right? So I got a lot of validation on that. So it kind of helped me also build the product, because you have people that are basically buying into that idea, and they're good for feedback. They're great for feedback, because they're going to tell you what they like and dislike. So those are what we're talking about. Like, how do we raise money, on our own, in our own resources, figuring out ways to do it on our own. And so let's take the next step. So again, if you're just joining me, Mike Grabham here again today. We're talking about kind of different ways we raise money. I was just reading the Inc. magazine thing here, and what I love about it's 5,000. It's a big survey of 5,000, and what was interesting, I thought, was 96% of the people use their own resources. 74% use personal savings, and another 22% use credit cards. So you think about that, 96% of all those starters of companies and successful companies, right, have used their own resources. Not VCs, not angel investors, use their own resources. So I've gone through the 4 things that you can get through on your own. But here's if you do want to raise money. How much time we got? Well, we got about 2 minutes. So here's the thing. If you do want to raise money, you think your idea is good enough to raise money, then here's the things that I would say you should do. Create a list of people that you think are willing to invest. So if you want to go through an angel route, or if you want to go with a VC route, you still need to create this target list, because you don't want to shoot with a shotgun. You want to shoot with a rifle. So create the target list, and you can do the target list. You can look on Crunchbase and a PitchBook, and there's lots of things you can get all this data from about what people have invested in. You can look at companies and see what's invested in them, and reverse engineer that, right? To see, okay, this person invested in that type of company, therefore they probably have an interest in that industry. So look for companies and or people who have invested in your industry. Step number 1, create a list of those people. Step number 2, and step number 3 is create a way to start accessing these people one at a time. Figure out how you can get to each person. It's networking, it's doing outreach, it's doing all those things to figure out how you can get in touch with those people, right? So that's how you do it. And I'm not saying you do that and walk in the door and say, I'm raising money. What you do is you start to create the relationship with these people early on, way early on. Like, I'm going to raise money next summer. I should be meeting with these people, coffee meetings right now, like this fall, right now. Let's start setting that up if you want to raise money next year. So that's the process of going about raising money from a VC angel investor. It's about relationship building. It's about being targeted, and it's about knowing like where their sweet spot is, the investor, like what things do they like to invest in. That is super critical that you understand that. And again, it's not hard to figure out. Another way to get introduced to these investors is past CEOs that they've invested in. Some people forget about that. So you can outreach to some of these CEOs that have been invested in by XYZ VC or XYZ angel investor and ask for introductions, or meet the CEO, see what they liked and didn't like, see what they brought to the table, meaning the investor brought to the table. Learn from that. See, maybe they're not a good fit for you, right? But there's ways to get to those investors by talking to CEOs that have been invested in by those companies and or angel investors. So that's the things today. I want to talk about the Inc. list, because it is such a large database. But it's telling me what. Here's the thing. Look, if you need to raise money for your startup, if you have to raise money for your startup, if you have to have $100,000 or whatever it is, then look for ways you can do it internally with your own resources, personal savings, friends, like close friends, right? And again, be very careful with that, because it can really bite you in the butt. But if it's a small amount of money, then it's not going to hurt people's feelings. So those are the ways. And then if you really want to do it, then you go to the VC route. And as I said, be very targeted. So that's all I got today. We are 25 minutes. That's what I'm trying to max it to. So 25 minutes. So again, give me a thumbs up. I'm Mike Grabham here, helping you through the startup journey. Let me know what I can do to help out. Leave any comments below. Let me see if I can answer anything here. I'm checking my comments here. But yeah, it's all good here. So yeah, so keep doing what you're doing, keep raising the bar, and I will see you next week. Next week on Tuesday, we have the founder of Slicing Pie, right? So he started Slicing Pie, which is it's basically a product that helps you understand what to give away on equity. So he's on Tuesday of next week. His name's Mike as well. So we'll be the Mike and Mike show on Tuesday next week at 11:30. So take care. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Adios. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.